The Coral Palace and the Six Princesses. The Sea King had a magnificent palace decorated with silver sands and giant seashells. Since his wife had passed away years ago, he raised his children with his wise mother. The king had 6 beautiful daughters, but the youngest was different from them all. Her skin was as delicate as a rose petal, and her eyes were as blue as the deepest part of the ocean. While her sisters loved playing with items fallen from sunken ships, she only wanted to hear stories about the world of humans. According to the laws of the sea folk, when a princess turned 15 years old, she gained the right to rise to the surface and see the world above. The first descent and the storm. Years passed, and it was the youngest princess's turn. When she reached the surface, she encountered a massive ship bathed in the crimson glow of the evening sun. A birthday celebration was being held on board for a handsome prince. The mermaid fell in love with the prince at first sight, captivated by his dark eyes and his smile. However, the ocean's fury was quick to awaken. A terrible storm tore the ship to pieces. The mermaid knew that humans could not breathe underwater. She caught the unconscious prince and carried him through the waves until morning, keeping his head above water. As the sun rose, she left him on the shore of a monastery and hid behind a rock. When a young girl found the prince, he believed that she was the one who had saved his life. The mermaid returned to the depths, her heart broken. The dark bargain with the sea witch. Unable to forget the prince, the mermaid sought ways to become human and possess an immortal soul. Finally, she went to the sea witch, who lived in a terrifying cave surrounded by sea polyps. The witch told her she would prepare a potion, but the price was heavy. She would lose her voice. The mermaid, who possessed the most beautiful voice in the world, would give her tongue to the witch. She would suffer. Every step she took would hurt as if she were walking on sharp swords. The risk of death. If the prince married someone else, her heart would break on the morning after the wedding, and she would turn into sea foam. For the sake of love, the mermaid accepted everything. She drank the potion and fainted in agony as her tail transformed into 2 flawless legs. Life on land. The prince found her on the shore and took her to his palace. The mermaid could no longer speak, but she enchanted everyone with her dancing and her gaze. Even though her feet felt as if they were bleeding with every step, she smiled because she was by the prince's side. The prince loved her like a sister and called her his little silent foundling, but his heart still belonged to the young girl he thought had saved him on the beach. Soon after, the prince's family wanted him to marry the princess of a neighboring kingdom. During the meeting, when the prince saw that the girl was the one who had found him on the shore, he joyfully agreed to the marriage. Dawn in the foam. As grand celebrations were held on the wedding ship, the mermaid waited silently for death. She would vanish when the sun rose. Just then, her sisters appeared on the surface of the water. They had given their long hair to the sea witch in exchange for a magical knife. If you plunge this knife into the prince's heart and his blood touches your feet, you can become a mermaid again and return to us, they cried. The mermaid went to the bedside of the sleeping prince. She waited with the knife in her hand. She looked at the prince and placed his happiness above her own life. She hurled the knife into the waves and threw herself into the ocean. The daughters of the air. As her body began to dissolve and turn into foam, she did not feel as though she had ceased to exist. She saw transparent, luminous beings around her. These were the daughters of the air. Because of her unrequited love and her sacrifice, the mermaid had earned a chance to gain a soul. If she did good deeds in the world for 300 years, she would attain an eternal soul. The mermaid watched the sunrise, this time not as foam, but as a beam of light rising toward the sky. She looked at the prince and his bride one last time with love and mingled into the clouds. The story of the Little Mermaid is far more complex than a simple fairy tale. Unlike the modernized versions, Andersen's original narrative offers profound moral lessons. Here are the key takeaways from the story. 1. The nature of true self-sacrifice. The most powerful theme is that real love is selfless. The little mermaid chooses to die and turn into sea foam rather than kill the prince to save herself. Her ultimate sacrifice proves that loving someone means prioritizing their happiness and existence over your own, even if they never know what you did for them. 2. The search for a higher purpose. While the mermaid initially seeks the prince's love, her deeper motivation is the quest for an immortal soul. The story suggests that physical beauty and earthly romance are temporary, but spiritual growth and good deeds lead to something eternal. By the end, her goal shifts from possessing a person to earning her place in the afterlife through kindness. 3. The pain of transformation and growth. The transition from the sea to the land is described as incredibly painful, the feeling of walking on knives. This serves as a metaphor for personal growth and change. Stepping out of your element to pursue a dream often requires immense courage and the endurance of hardship. 4. The risk of silent expectations. A more practical lesson lies in the mermaid's loss of her voice. Because she cannot speak her truth, the prince never learns who actually saved him. This highlights the importance of communication. Without a voice, one's intentions and sacrifices can easily be misunderstood or overlooked by the world. Summary. The moral of the story is that while the path of virtue and love is often filled with suffering and silence, it is the purity of one's soul and the nobility of one's actions, not the achievement of a specific romantic goal, that defines a person's ultimate worth.